Actually, we have not changed the midterm target, but we've been using since the pandemic the reference to 65 rate 65 planes per month, because this is what we had when we entered into the COVID-19 beginning of 2020, and we used that pre-COVID reference, but now that's no longer relevant, as we are now moving towards rate 75 with 10 assembly lines instead of 8, and on top we have changed the number of assembly lines capable of delivering the A321, which is now the majority of what we produce. And maybe even more important, we want to take all the supply chain with us, not to rate 65, but to rate 75. So we want to use that reference as the absolute must for all the partners and the suppliers and for ourselves as well. That's why we use that 75 reference as a hard reference, and we think the reference to pre-COVID is no longer relevant.
Okay, so you mentioned the supply chain just now, and you mentioned in your communique that it's still a complex operating environment. So tell us, how much visibility do you have, and how is it getting any better?
Well, it's a mixed situation depending on the supplier themselves. We continue indeed to be in an environment that is complex for us and for the suppliers themselves, with continued inflation, interest rates that weigh on the ones who have more weak balance sheets. We also see the difficulties to recruit, to hire people, to retain people, and not mentioning the challenges on the supply of raw materials. So that's the background. Now, this being said, we continue to be paced by some few critical suppliers. The good news is they stick to what we call their recovery plans. They deliver on their plans, but that's still the pacing element of the production. So that's why we've been able to confirm the guidance. That's, from that perspective, a better situation than last year, but we don't see yet an environment that I would consider getting significantly better. That's still a complex environment.
Well, kind of sticking to the issue of your suppliers, of course, there's some those engine issues from Pratt and Whitney. You mentioned already at Le Bourget that the deliveries were strained of those engines that make about half of your AC20 engines. And of course, there was the issues announced earlier this week by RTX that they're recalling, or they have to do some inspection of some of these engines. So can you tell us, are these issues impacting your production and your deliveries, and how you talk to the RTX and some of your clients as well?
Well, the situation is challenging with the GTF engine for the A320 family. There are two main topics that we have to deal with. The one that was already existing before and that has been managed now for a couple of quarters is the durability of the GTF that is insufficient, and that leads to aircraft on ground in the fleet because of difficulties to get spare engines or spare parts on time. And that's where we've been working with Pratt and Whitney to find the best balance between engines coming to Airbus for new planes and parts and engines going to the fleet to support the airlines and the fleet of the airlines. Now we have a second problem to manage that is quite recent. That's what RTX has been explaining yesterday on their call. That is a quality escape that they want to control, that they need the engines to be back to the shops to inspect the engines. That's of a very different nature. And for that one, that's not impacting the flow of engines to Airbus for 2023. And when it comes to the additional burden that it will put on Pratt and Whitney in 2024 and 2025, and the potential repercussions, implication that this would have on us, it's too early to say, but I would call them the indirect implications, not directly preventing Pratt and Whitney from shipping engines to Airbus again for the future. So we need to understand better for the second aspect what it will mean, but it's obviously very bad news for our customers. That's very frustrating. But again, that's for safety. And I think Pratt is doing the right thing in anticipating the situation, recalling engines and protecting safety first.
Of course, we saw at Le Bourget in particular, you had a couple of mega orders from Indigo and Air India. Some analysts believe that this is it. We've seen the big mega orders of the year, and something that maybe there's more to come. What's your view? Are we going to see more mega orders?
So the Indigo order was really outstanding. 500 planes in a single order for firm orders is really exceptional. That's something that is connected to the big growth that we see in India, the fastest growing market in the world for aviation. So there will not be another mega order of that size around the corner. This being said, we continue to see appetite from airlines to order single aisle, and we will see other orders moving forward. So we are not at the end of large orders.
May I ask you, there were some reports very recently about the potential management reorganization at Airbus, and that you could name someone in charge of the plane making arm, which would allow you to tackle some bigger strategic priorities. So that would mirror, to a certain extent, the old structure that we had at Airbus, where remember there were some power struggles that were quite notorious. So are you thinking at this management reorganization?
I will not comment on that rumor. I never comment on rumors when it comes to potential change of people or organization at Airbus. And when we are entering into those kind of things, we communicate ourselves, starting, by the way, with the management, the employees, and the employees' representatives. So I will not enter into speculation of that nature. The only area where we have announced that we enter into a change of organization is in our defense and space branch, where we want to indeed reorganize and optimize for more accountability, for more agility and competitiveness of the defense and space organization. And that's all that we have on our plate that we share at the moment, obviously.
Well, specifically on defense, the head of Airbus Defense in a recent interview talked about how European countries talk a lot about working more towards European defense, but that they're actually failing to collaborate. So, of course, we know you are working around the future combat air system. So I just want your view on this. Are European countries failing to collaborate? And how are the talks towards this new fighter jet?
Yes, against the backdrop of Ukraine, Europe has tried to find ways of having a common response to that situation, and that's calling for more European unity and European initiatives towards military systems, defense systems. We have the existing initiatives that are pre-existing from Ukraine. The Future Combat Air System is one of them, taking France, Germany, and Spain together. But when it comes to accelerating, to showing unity in addressing the new threats and also the solutions, indeed, that's very challenging, and it's quite frustrating to see that the responses that have been provided so far are mostly of national nature and not much of a European nature. So Michael Cholon was voicing that frustration that the speech is more Europe in defense, but that we see happening is actually very national, and that's something we think Europe should reconsider and be more consistent when it comes to working together on large programs.
Is M&A necessary in the defense industry in Europe, something closer to around larger player like we see in the US?
Well, a lot of things can happen without M&A, and a lot of the programs that have been successful in the past were mostly of cooperation nature, sometimes with joint ventures. It can take the form of M&A over time, but M&A, generally speaking, takes more time compared to defining and putting together a joint program between different companies. So M&A can be part of the answer, but is not a prerequisite.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.